Welcome everyone, welcome back. Today's session is about a leader makes a school financially sustainable. Sustainable means you build it in such a way that it can carry on going, that you don't suddenly get to a point where you say, oh, my money is finished, we'll have to send the children home. So this is about financial wisdom, financial skills, and we trust that it's really, really going to help you. The first section is about keeping accurate financial records. And I just want to share with you a section from Luke 14. And isn't it interesting that it's Luke 14, verse 28, which is 14 plus 14. I love it when I can remember where those references are, where Jesus talks about embarking on a project of building something. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Setting out on a building project or on a project in establishing something like a school is it's not a new thing. It is even in Jesus' time, there were people that started building projects and then they stopped halfway because they ran out of money. So let's get going and let's just clear up some words. These are some words about accounting. So, the first thing is the word account. If you want to learn about accounting, you've got to know what an account is. Account is a written record of money that was received, that came in, money that was spent, that you had to pay, and the amount of money that is available. That is an account, right? So that's your first word. You're going to later work in your book and you're going to write an explanation. Right, the second word is debit. Debit is related to debt. Debt, which means the money that you owe. So your debit is the money that you owe, that you have to pay out for bills or to pay somebody back. Debit is the money that you don't have for yourself, but you have to pay it out. You owe it. Credit is the opposite. If you have a credit, you have extra. Credit is the money that you have. Okay? Maybe it's the money that came in through school fees or through donations. It is the money that you have available. And by the way, it is not your own. It is for the school and it needs to be administered wisely. And you need to be accountable to the money that comes in, the money that goes out. The last one is the word balance. Just like in a balance where the one is heavy, the other needs to be the same heaviness. A balance in accounting is the amount of money that you have after you have paid what you owed, right? So in other words, you subtract, you take away what you owe, and you take it away from that which you have, all right? Your facilitator is going to help you with those words to write them in your book, and you can do some drawings or whatever it says in your book. Then one last little bit. And that's just a little, it's not an extra word, but it's just a little idea. The balance brought forward, that is the balance from the previous quarter. You do your accounting per quarter. Quarters like 3 months, okay? The balance that you were left with from the previous quarter, you take that balance and you start your new following quarter with that balance. If it's negative, if you owe, you record it. If it's positive, same thing. You record it in your new books for the next quarter. Right, Bastiaan's now going to come and show you how to do a T account.
We've been talking about the terms that get used for doing your accounting and keeping your school finances going well. And so this morning I'm going to explain to you and show you how to make a T account. A T account is actually where you use the credit and the debit, the two terms that you've been learning, how to put them into practice and how to get it flowing nicely. So here in front of us is what we call a T account. You can see in red, it's marked out as a T. And when you're busy doing your planning with your finances of your school or for your home or for yourself, you can use a T account. Now, to understand this better, on the left-hand side, you'll see that there is the word debit. Remember, we worked through this earlier on. Debit means the money that you owe somebody or that you need to pay out. And next to it is the word credit. And that is the money that you get in. So that is the money you receive. And then on the very far right-hand side, you'll see a column that says balance. And that means when you take the debit off your credit, when you take what you owe of what you have, you land up with what is called the balance, and that's the total that you have. I'm going to give you an example. For example, if you get in $10, $10 is what you've received. That would then go into the credit column.
And for every entry, you use one line. So you didn't owe any money. You got in 10. And your balance is 10.
Right, but now we go on and we see that you still got some other money from somewhere else. Maybe as a school you got a donation, so you got maybe $15 donation, and that's nice. It always helps us to keep our school running nicely. So $15 goes into the credit because you got that, you received that. And so now you can see the balance is going to be 15 plus 10. And 15 plus 10 is 25. But now this we don't only get money in, we also have to pay money out. So if you have to pay for your water and electricity, you're going to have to pay out a little bit of money. So let's say that you're going to pay out $12. So we put it into the debit. I owe $12. And so I didn't get anything in, but I owe $12. So now I have to say, I owe $12, but I have $25, and that means that I have got $13 left over in my balance. And we go to the next one, and fortunately we have another nice little amount that came in. $5 came in, and we can say that that goes into the credit and nothing goes into the debit. But then so now we can say we've got $13 in the balance and we've got $5 extra, so we've got $18 on the balance side. But as life goes on, we need to buy uniforms, and they're always expensive, so they're going to cost us let's say $11. All right, so we've got $11. So that means if we take what we had already, $18, and we take away the $11 that we have to pay out, we're only going to have $7. And now we can check in the bottom line how much we've got at the end of the first quarter. And because we've been doing a running total on the balance, you can do a double check. So we can say in the debit column, the 12 plus 11 gives us 23. And
that's what we've paid out, 23. That's what we've paid out.
Yes.
Right?
And so now what we got in, 10 plus 15 is 25, plus 5 is 30. And now look, you can see what's happened. We got $30 in, but we paid out $23. And if you take out the $23 together with the 7 that we have in the balance, it would mean that we had 30. But we, of course, have $7 left over, which goes into the balance.
So
there we go.
That and that need to be the same amount, just to check.
If they're not the same amount, then we can go back and check it. Now, this was done, you can see it says it was done in the first quarter. And remember, we are looking at a school. And so we would be looking at the first 3 months of the school year, and we would call it the first quarter. Of course, you can do this at what I said earlier on. You can do it per month. If you have a lot of money coming in and going out, I suggest you do it per month, and then in the end you balance the months out and you put them down for the first quarter. So now you see that at the end of the first quarter, we had $7 left over. Now we're going to do something, and there's a new term we're going to bring, we call it bring the balance forward. So we're going to bring the balance forward, and because it's a positive amount, we're going to put that positive amount into the credit column. And the credit column means that's the money that we have. We didn't owe anything, so 0 goes in there, and the balance is $7. And that means that now we are ready to start working on the second quarter. And the second quarter would go exactly like the first quarter. And you will see that by the time you finish the year, when you've got to the fourth quarter, you'll know exactly how much money you've made, how much money you've spent, and how much money you've got left over. Just to revise quickly then, the left-hand column of this T account, remember it's called a T account, the left-hand column is the debit. Debit is the word that we use for what we owe or what we have to pay out. And then next to it is the word credit. And credit means this is the money that we have, and this is from which we can pay everything that we need to pay. And then the balance is the final column, which is the balance between what you owe and what you have. And so finally, when it's all worked out, you'll see that at the end of this quarter, we end up with a $7 positive balance. So the balance brought forward is positive. If, however, it had been negative, if that 7 was not a 7 but was a -7, then the 7 would have gone into the debit column. But we'll see how that works at a later stage. A little bit later, we are going to use this in a game, and then you will see how it all works out and how you can plan your school, and eventually at the end of the session we'll also be looking at how you can budget for your school, and that means you're going to start working on how you plan the following year. But don't worry about that right now. We're going to start with this as we have it at the moment. This is where the fun part starts. We're going to look at how we're going to play the game. The game is actually quite exciting. It has two perspectives to it. On the one side, we're busy building a school, and on the other side, we are busy checking on the finances of the school. In front of you, you'll see there are three different pictures. One is of the game itself, and then we have a recording sheet. It says the finance record sheet that's in front of you, and that shows you how you are building your school. And then there's a third sheet which shows you where you have to record the finances. The aim of the game is to see who can finish building their school first, and obviously it's great if you finish building your school, but if you have built a school and you are bankrupt, then your school cannot exist. Then the following person will have to be the winner of the game. So we're going to start now, and we're going to work with our little game here. Remember, we've got our markers, and we're going to work in a clockwise direction, go around, and here is our dice, which we'll use to show how far we must go.
Right, so these pictures here at the bottom are the key. They explain what these pictures here in the game mean. If you go to the first one here, it says apparatus. So whenever you come to this picture with the little books and pens and things, like here and like there, that means you can buy apparatus. If you get to this, which is a little man with a wall, it means you get bricks. Now, we only record it as 5 bricks or however many, but they're actually times 1,000. So whenever you see the little man, there's another one, then you get bricks. You write them down on the school record sheet. Okay. The way we write it down is, say now you've thrown a 3. You land with your counter on this one here. That means you can get 3 times 1,000 bricks. You will record it on your sheet here. You will go 1, 2, 3 bricks. Say now you throw a 6 and you would land here on apparatus. Then you would get 6 amounts of apparatus. Then you would go here, class apparatus, you would tick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apparatus.
Great. And then there's a few other things.
Yes, you need to explain about the money.
You'll see that if you're playing the game, and remember you go in a clockwise direction, you throw the dice and you move a number of squares that the dice shows you, but we will go to that just now. But if you land on, say, this square, it says pay $12 services. So now that means that this has got to do with money. And then we need to use this sheet over here. This sheet has to do everything with money. So if I owe money, I would go and write it in the debit column. Remember, that is the column where you find out what you owe. And there are various places on the corner. This one is for electricity and water. This one is for repairs, and you got to buy books over here, which is 18. But it's not all negative. It can also be positive, because when you come past the little school building over here,
even when you start.
Yes, you get in school fees. And school fees means that you get 10 school fees, so $10 school fees. And that would go into the credit column. When you start, you would start off with 10 in the credit column. Again, if you throw the dice and you land on this little man with all his dollars, you receive school fees. And then that is the same as with the others. So if you throw your dice and you get to 3, you would get 3 amounts, $3 of school fees, and that 3 would go into the credit column. All right, we are going to clean up everything, and then we are going to start, and we're going to play the game together so that you can see how playing the game actually starts and how it goes. So our guiding verse for today was Luke 14:28, and it says, "For who would begin construction of a building without first calculating the cost to see if there is enough money to finish it?" And of course, when you're busy constructing and building a school, there's a physical building, but there's a building up of everything else that happens in the school. You want it to be sustainable. You want it to carry on. When I started at the school where I was busy, we had a 10-year celebration, and we asked a child to pray. And the child prayed and said, "May this school still be here in 100 years." And I was so amazed that she would pray for the school in 100 years. I hadn't thought that. But what a good thing. If you are building your school, you think you are building it, but may your school continue into the future. And that's why we need to make sure that your school is sustainable. This game will help us to do that.
On the table is one board like this, one playing board for the whole group. Every player has their own place marker. There's one dice. And every player has got a School Apoli record sheet and a balance sheet. This is where we record the finances that come in, the finances that go out as we play the game. This is where we record what we have in terms of bricks, cement, roof panels, teachers, and all those things that it needs to build a school.
Great, so now I'm going to start. I take my dice and I throw it, and oh, good, I got a 6. So here we go.
So as you start, you can see there's collected $10 donation. So as you start, you immediately write down your $10 credit here. So no debit, nothing that you owe. Credit, you get your $10, and the balance is $10.
And
right, you can start.
I threw a 6, so here I'm going to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh dear, I've landed on a blank space. That means I don't get anything and I don't give out anything. So now it will be the next person's chance.
Okay, my turn. Remember, I'm only recording what Bastian does in the game. Whatever I do, I will not write down. This is just to show you what to fill in the balance sheet and in the record sheet. Okay, I received a 5. So I would write my credit there, my $10 credit as I start. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have some children, so that I would, here on pupils, I would mark that down as 5 pupils, but it's your turn now.
Right, there I go. Oh,
again.
Good with my 6s today. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here we go. There's the little man on the roof, and he is showing us that I get 6 roof panels,
which we mark down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 roof panels. You're doing well, Bus. Now my turn. 1. Right.
No.
Whoopsie.
You must
Wrong one,
use
wrong
your
one, wrong
own-
one. Yes.
There we go.
My color is purple. 1.
All right, again it's a blank, so you don't get anything. And I go again, and I go 1.
Yes, and
And
you
good,
get 1 teacher, which we marked down here.
Remember, here it shows if you can't remember what it is.
And here is the line for teachers.
All right?
Okay, my turn. 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at this. I have to pay $12 for services, which I would note in the debit column on my own sheet. But this is Bastian's sheet, so
Here we go, and I also got a 1. So I have to pay $6 for repairs. So watch what Ursula's going to do.
So repairs you have to pay out. Those are the things you owe. $6. You're getting nothing in. And now 10 minus 6, because that's what you had to pay out, gives you a 4 here. Your balance of the money that you have in your kitty for the school is $4.
And then here we go. Is it your chance?
That's my turn.
Sorry, your chance, yes.
All right. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would get 4 teachers.
Great.
Right.
Now it's my chance again. And there we go, 4 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I
Whoa.
get 4
You get 4
students or pupils.
1, 2, 3, 4. Your school is starting to look good. You have roof panels, you have a teacher, you have 4 students. You can start going. Oh, 1. Oh boy, I would have to pay repairs. Right, your turn.
I think you would start running out of money
I
soon.
would.
Okay, here we go. And I do 2, and I go 1, 2, and here we are. 2 lots of bricks.
2 lots of bricks. It's not really 2 bricks. You can see here that bricks times 1,000. So you would have 2,000 bricks. Well done,
But
Mr. Norrell.
we just do mark off
We just
2.
mark off 2. Yes.
Right.
Okay. 1, 2. Nothing happening at the office today.
And my chance, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I've got to pay $18 for books.
Which we put in the debit column because we have to pay it out. $18. You get no credit. So your balance was 4, and now you had to pay out 8, which gives you minus $14. You'll have to do some fundraising.
Oh dear.
Right, my turn.
Oh dear.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would get 4,000 bricks.
Here we go. Better get a nice number now. 1, 2, 3, 4,
And
5.
5. There you are back at your beginning. It says collect $10 donation. So, nothing to pay out, no debit. $10 in, and the balance minus 14. And you add 10, gives you now minus 4. You're still in negative, but much better than where you were. Right, my turn. I get a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would get 6 bags of cement.
And here we go. And I'm going to get 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nothing.
Nothing to note. 4 for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Firstly, I would mark down my $10 donation. Secondly, I would note down my 4 lots of bricks.
Here we go. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You
And I've landed on 4. And this little man with all the money received fees. So I get $4 in. And that
Someone has paid their school fees.
I am
Nothing.
very grateful.
You are relieved. You get $4. And the balance, if you had minus 4 and now you receive 4, the balance is 0. Better than negative.
Okay.
My
so
chance. Oh, yes.
Before we carry
Okay,
on,
good.
we have come to the end of the first quarter. So Ursula, are you going to work out how much money we've got? It should all
Yes.
balance out.
So we have had a running balance here. So my balance should be naught. If I work this out correctly, my balance should be naught. But let us now total up the debit, what you owe, and total up what you got in, and let's see if you balance them out, they give you naught. So 6 plus 18 makes $24 I had to pay out. Okay? 10 plus 10 plus 4 makes 24. $24 I got in, that was my credit. So I had a credit of $24. I spent 24 and my balance is naught. So that is correct. Right.
And now we're going to talk about the balance brought forward.
Yes.
So that balance brought forward means as you start the next quarter or the next term, and remember we did say that you could be doing this per month if you wanted to, or whatever period you do, but quarters works quite well. So the first quarter we had nothing in our balance, but we must remember to bring it forward. If there had been a positive balance, for example, $5 that we had spare, then it would go into the $5 credit column.
It's a credit.
If I still owed $4 like I did over there, then it would go into the for debit, $4
as a minus
debit.
4.
And then the balance would be minus 4. But thank goodness we got this far. Now,
right, let's bring the balance forward. There we go. We have no money in our account, but we also didn't have anything that we owe, nothing that we have.
at this point in the game, you will see that we have come to the end of the first quarter. We have worked out our balance, and in this game it was beautiful because we came out on a balance of 0. Of course, it would be much better if we had a positive balance, but I suppose this is fairly realistic. Sometimes you would come out on a negative balance. So we've brought that forward now, and we now need to give a report back to our school board, the people who run the school. And so you would come and you'd say to the school board, ladies and gentlemen, here is our report from our school. You'll see that we have got 2 loads of bricks, and so we've got some bricks. Unfortunately, we don't have any cement. And so that is a bit of a problem. We still need to get cement. We've got enough to definitely to start our roof and to get our roof going. We've got a teacher. Fortunately, there's a lady who has come forward to be our teacher, and we've got students for our school. So now we can move forward into the next quarter, and we can hopefully start building, because we'll get cement and a little bit more apparatus, and we'll need somebody for administration, but they will come in, and then we can start our next quarter. If we don't get them, we'll start anyway, and we will run through our next quarter. If you find that when you're playing the game, it's taking too long, then you can easily stop and say to, as a group together, you can all stand and you can say, let's have a look whose school who's gone the furthest and has built the most. Obviously, a positive balance at the end is what is required. If you have 0, well, what can you do? That's what but your school can't have a negative balance. It has to have a positive balance. Otherwise, you have a big problem if you don't have enough money to continue. And so that's how the development of our school will go. And we'll see how it goes further.
Great, yes. Yes, remember to give a report to the school board on the state of your school and also the state of your finances, your balance sheet.
Great. I hope you enjoyed playing the game. Obviously, we've been playing a game, but the game is about learning lessons. And you have now hopefully got a good grasp on the words that mean debit, credit, T account, balance, balance brought forward. All of these things were in the game. But now we're coming to an important point in the development of where we are going. Because we are not, this wasn't only a game just because we wanted to play a game, but it was for learning. And we're going to start looking at how we apply these lessons to our own schools and how you do the finances in your own school. And I'm hoping that you're going to go home and to your own school, and you're going to start putting these things into practice. So as the school fees come in, you put them into the credit. As you pay out money, you put them into the debit. And then you work out what the balance is. And in that way, you should never come to a point when you are surprised that you suddenly don't have enough money. And that is really what all of this is about. There are a couple of rules that I think are vitally important that you should remember. The first one is that you have to have transparency. That means that you shouldn't be doing the money stuff in secret in your office. There should be people who are involved who understand that have got the responsibility to be part of your committee or your group of people that look at your finances. Now you might say, well, I don't want everybody to know how much salary I get and how much salary other people get. And this is a very important aspect. Salaries should not really be public discussion. But when you are doing your finances, there should at least be one bracket which talks about salaries. They're all together, and only a few trusted people know exactly how those salaries are worked out. The next thing, so that's transparency. That means it's open there. If somebody comes to you and says, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, I want to see where the money went. You can sit down in your office and you can say, well, what do you really want to know? What do you think is happening? This is how we do it. This is what's going on. These people are on the committee. Then there is transparency. Then they know where you're going. So transparency is important. The next one is honesty. Honesty, you have to be honest. You cannot cheat the system. If there is cheating, if there's money that is taken away for something, it becomes a problem. And linked with honesty is a word we use, and that's called integrity. There are opportunities when you're running a school that you could be using some of the school's money. There was a principal who painted his classrooms, and he took half the paint home to paint his home, to paint the house. Now, the money that was given for painting the classrooms was not meant for painting his house. That is an integrity issue. I personally had to come to terms with something like that. We had a program. There was a car that was going to break the world speed record, and the team came to the school to talk about this. And in paying for the presentation, you could also get a T-shirt. And they were made in Britain. They were really smart T-shirts with a smart badge on it. And at first I thought I would just include a T-shirt for myself when we paid for the presentation. And you could argue that I'd organized the presentation, I could get a T-shirt. But my conscience was on me, and I decided that I could not take a t-shirt because that was for personal gain. It was a very nice shirt and I really wanted to have it. And I said to the school secretary, no, I will pay for the shirt. Don't pay them. I will separately pay for it. You know what it did was that it set the right standard, because the lady paying out the money knew that I would not take the money for a shirt for myself. And I expected the same standard from the people working with the finances. So that is a little story explaining integrity. You need to have integrity. All right. So now we go a little bit forward, and we're just going to unpack a few more of these things which are very necessary to understand. The money that you get in for the school is community money. The community, the people outside, are paying you to educate their children. Part of the education of their children is to pay the salaries of your teaching staff, and to you yourself get a salary, and you have to make sure that everybody gets a fair salary, and you also should get a fair salary. But remember that you can't push your own salary very high. It needs to be at the correct level. Now the problem is that in many instances, people run schools not as a community project, but for self-enrichment. It happens a lot with churches. Churches also, the pastors start taking in more and more money for themselves from their congregation. This is not a good biblical principle. You are using community money to build up a community system. So when you start planning, and we're going to talk more about how we plan a little bit later on, when you start planning, you must make sure that your plan includes proper salaries, but you don't take what's left over for yourself. This needs to be used for school purposes. The next point, I'm sure you saw that in the middle of the game, we did talk about it at the beginning, is a Bible verse from Luke 14, verse 28, which says, Jesus said, "Which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough money to complete it?" This is a very good example that Jesus gave. Everybody understood that. And we need to adopt this. And what it's saying is, you plan beforehand what you are going to use and how you're going to use it. So if you want to build a classroom, you need to make a proper plan to find out how you're going to build the classroom and what money you're going to use for it and how you're going to do the fundraising for it. So you need to have a plan. And we're going to talk more about this. This plan is called a budget. So we look forward and we plan the next year's finances in our budget. It's going to be the plan for what we're going to spend next year. Remember that you are a servant of the Lord and you are running a school for God. The school, you may have started it, but actually God is the owner. God has given you the capacity to run a school and to make it work. But finally, God is the owner. We read in Haggai chapter 2 verse 8, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty." Remember, everything we have actually belongs to God. Even if we think it belongs to us, Our health could go tomorrow and it can all be gone. It can just happen that it is the Lord's school and the Lord owns it. And then I have to just also say something about borrowing money. Be on your guard when borrowing money. This is another very important principle. Proverbs 22 verse 7 puts it so well. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is a slave of the lender. So the rich man rules over the poor man, and the borrower, that is the one who borrows the money, is a slave to the lender. Be particularly careful when you borrow money. Sometimes there is a necessity to borrow money. When you're buying a house or a big project, when you're buying a piece of ground, you need to borrow money. But be very careful that you don't borrow money that you can't repay properly. There are people out there who want to make money out of your money. They lend you money, but they are getting more money back. And that is where you can get unstuck. Your facilitators are going to work with you now, and then we're coming back to talk about budget. Good. This is the next important part of running your school finances. And that is making a budget. Budget is perhaps a new word for you. Budget is talking about planning what you're going to get in and what you're going to spend. Now you're planning it. Right at the beginning when we played the game, we talked about your accounts and how they flow. Now you've done that in your school. Now it's near the end of the year. You're going to sit down and you are going to start planning your finances for the next year. And that's what we call a budget. Planning for the next year. And this takes into account your expenses and your income. So the money that you have to pay out and the money that you are getting in. There are several really important things that have to fit into a budget. In the very first place, the teacher's salary. The teacher's salary should take up about 70 to 80% of your budget. So you've got to sit down beforehand, you've got to say, how many children have I got? How many teachers have we got? From the amount of children that you've got, you start working out how much money you will get in. You set your school fees, you work it out, you even plan in the back of your mind that a certain amount of those children are not going to pay their fees because their parents didn't come forth and pay them. So keep it in your plan. So the very first thing is the teacher's salaries. That includes yours. You're part of the teaching staff. That needs to go in there, very important. If you are renting space, you have to plan that you're going to have to pay for the rented space. So you're going to fill that in. You're going to check that you work out how much you are spending on renting your place. There is a further thing there. There is a category that you need to fill in and remember, and that's called repairs and maintenance. Repairs and maintenance is a crucial thing, because if you don't repair something, it will get worse. You have to fix things. I always had the principle when I was running a school, if there's one broken window, I fix it straight away. If there's one bit of writing on the walls, I clean it straight away. Because I don't know why it is like this, but if there's one broken window, you'll find soon there'll be 2 and 3 broken windows. If one child writes on the board or on a desk or somewhere where they shouldn't, another child will do it as well. It's part of maintenance, repairs. If one globe breaks, repair it. If you wait until you've got 10 globes that are broken, you have to spend too much money to start fixing it. So have a line in your budget which says repairs and maintenance. We then go to services. Services are important. That's paying for your electricity, paying for, sometimes you pay for water. Different countries do it differently. Pay for your electricity, you pay for your water. You have to sometimes pay certain taxes, maybe on the property that you are using. If you're not renting, you'll probably land up paying taxes to the local council for your property. And then you have to remember that there are additional staff at your school that you need to pay. They might be the lady who's cooking, or it might be the people who are cleaning afterwards. It could include the secretaries who are busy doing the work in the background. So remember, they need to be in your budget. So now we look, that is the amount of money you're going to spend, that you're going to give out. Remember, we're now looking also, I did speak a little bit about the number of children. You now need to look at the money coming in. And so you need to work out beforehand and with your committee of leaders how many children are going to be in a class. So we call it the teacher-pupil ratio. The teacher-pupil ratio. That means one teacher, 25 children. One teacher, 35 children. One teacher, 45 children. When you're doing your money calculations, it is very, very tempting to have more children in one class so that you get in more money. But remember, the more children you have in a class, the less quality education you're going to give. And you may be running a good school in your community, and people will come because you have a good school. And if you put too many children in the classes, your good school won't be a good school anymore. And you'll start losing out children and going their own way. Okay, let's just quickly go over that. Budget is planning for the following year. You need to keep in account teacher salaries. Say it with me. Teacher salaries. Renting space. Repairs and maintenance. Services, which is electricity, water, taxes. Additional staff, like the cooks and the cleaning staff. School apparatus, I think I've left this one out beforehand. You need equipment in your school to run your school. You need blackboard dusters and you need different bits of equipment. Ursula and I worked in Liberia after their 14 years of civil war. And they did not have, the people were poor. But one school had set aside a little bit of money And they actually had a blackboard ruler and a bit of paper and some pens. That is apparatus. You need to plan for that. It needs to be part of your budget. Good. Thank you very much. If you remember the beginning of this session, the heading of session 5 is an effective leader makes a school financially sustainable. This means that by planning properly and putting everything in place, you are making sure that your school can carry on from year to year to year. It is sustainable. You know where your money's coming from, you know where your money's going, you know how many children you got, more or less. It changes over time. You might have sickness, you might have things happening in your area that you can't account for. But basically, you know that you need to keep your school sustainable. I'd like to give you a couple of ideas today, and please, these are not limited to these ideas. You are later going to sit and discuss if there are other things that you can do or what you do with your school. But there are sources of income that you can get that do not come from school fees or donations. And these are important because they can give you all kinds of little extras. In my school, we set out a soccer field. The children brought grass from home and they planted the grass and we watered it, and eventually we had a lovely soccer field because we did it as an additional project. So we're going to talk about a few things. They are in your manuals, but we first want to just talk about them so you've got a bit of a deeper understanding. After-school programs can generate money for your school. They can generate, if you, for example, we talked about a soccer field, a soccer club. The children can pay a little bit to be part of the soccer club. Don't be scared, by the way, of little amounts. Many little amounts add up to bigger amounts. And you will find that it goes very quickly. You just save little amounts. And be careful that you don't put it into the big pot and it just gets used up. If you're doing a special project, put it aside and you can carry on collecting money and you'll see how it grows. So the first thing is to do an after-school program. You can have an after-school care center that looks after children. You could do all kinds of things that would generate money. I did not run this as an after-school program, but as a young teacher, I was struggling to come out with my finances, and on a Saturday morning, I taught children how to play the guitar. And I had many pupils, and we put it aside, and the money we got in was for some special things that we wanted to do. So you can do that. Just think a little bit out of the box. The next project that you can run is a vegetable garden. Now, I know that some curriculums put vegetable gardens into the curriculum so that children learn how to have a tiny little garden and how to grow vegetables for their family. You can do it as a school. You can have classes having a patch of vegetables. And if you do it well, you can in fact sell vegetables to the local community if you work carefully. There is a project I just want to refer you to, and that is Farming God's Way. It is a very effective way of doing a vegetable patch, and especially in the poorer communities and in rural communities. Just how to make use of the environment and everything you've got. It's called Farming God's Way. In your manual, you will see a reference to where you can find more information on Farming God's Way. Some countries, you can make money by recycling. If you could recycle all the plastic bottles or all the glass bottles or all the paper, you put it in a bin and you take it to the place where they will pay you a bit of money for those things. It's called recycling, and it teaches the children in the first place not to waste and to throw things out and to make their school ugly. It teaches them to keep the papers and to keep the bottles, so it's educational as well as creating a little bit of finances. You can have a village market. You've got a piece of ground, your school is part of the community, you have a village market. You can have tables and people can pay for a table and they sell their produce there, or part of the sale of their produce goes to the school and the rest goes to them. So if it's 10%, $1 will go to the school and $9 will go to the person who's selling it. But you are making a little bit of money, and it will help you to have your school being financially sustainable. The last one I really want to still mention is a school tuck shop. It depends. You can have a complicated little shop at your school with lots of things to buy. I am always amazed that the poorest people will always find a little bit of money for sweets. Even for just one little sweet, there'll be money for it. You can get money for your school like that by having a little tuck shop. It works easily, and you just, like another shop, one of the parents who's unemployed can come and do it. You can even pay them a slight amount to run the shop, and your school gets a little bit of money. I must tell you, in fact, one of the pictures in your manual shows a lady selling what we call magwenya. They are little dough balls with sugar on them. They've been cooked in, I think, in oil. And so they're these little balls like this, and they put sugar on it. And she was selling that in a school that was the poorest of the poor schools. And remember earlier I told you about a school that had rulers and things in their school? It was that school. They got the money for that equipment from that lady selling those little items. Very little, very low cost, very little profit, but they made it. You will see as well in your manual, there is a man who is selling coconuts, and if you look really carefully, he had a big knife like this, and he took his coconut and he went, "Wah!" and he hit the top of, maybe you know that, but it was a surprise to me to see that. I would hate to see if he didn't aim correctly. But he was selling coconuts. They were found on the trees, and they'd clean them up, and they were selling them. So there are various ways in which you can make money for your school and help your school to be sustainable. We're going to break here, and your facilitators will now take you into a discussion group, and there's also an activity to write in your interactive journals. Thank you very much. I hope you've learned from this session. It is a very important session, and I think we need to maybe go over it again, but I hope there's lots that you have learned. Thank you very much.